Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a long time coming. It is the 13 Keys to the White House by Allan Lichtman, who has, as people have noted, correctly predicted all these elections. Although if you actually look back, I think mainly it was based on popular vote, and he said Trump would win the popular vote in 2016. Trump ended up losing it. But either way, he's had a nice track record. And here he is predicting in 2024, supposedly, at least right now, I guess Kamala Harris to defeat Donald Trump. There are a few things you need to know about Lichtman, though, before we get into this video. Number one, and this is something that I do argue with people a lot because, trust me, I get the question. It's been better recently, and not as many people ask, but like, what do you think of the 13 Keys? You know, CNN always puts out these videos. He's gotten all these elections right. He says Kamala Harris is going to win. Well, you guys do realize that CNN was putting these videos out 3 or 4 months ago, and he was saying that Joe Biden was going to win. And that was so ridiculous. Barack Obama basically told him that he was retarded. I mean, Obama led the coup against Biden to where they said that Biden is basically unwinnable for him. Nancy Pelosi admits it on CNN. And you've got this dude shilling for Biden. It got so bad that the donors said that they just were like, we're not going to donate to this guy anymore. The big time Democratic donors in like June, late after the debate, even after the debate, this dude still said, based on his model, that Joe Biden was going to win. So this should invalidate it anyways. And you can see this. He comes out and says, foolish, self-destructive. He slams the Democrats for pushing Biden to drop out. And now, why would he do that? It seems pretty ridiculous considering the Democrats, I'm sure they love that they've pushed Biden to drop out based on Kamala Harris and the recent polling surge that she's gotten. Why would he defend Biden? Because he has to defend his model. And he was the only one simping for Biden, saying that Biden was still going to win. It was really him and 538 as well with all their weird polls. But everyone else, CNN was vehemently against Biden. You had David Axelrod saying, he's the top Democratic strategist saying, this is just pathetic. He needs to leave. Even Nancy Pelosi, before Biden was out, was doing interviews on CNN saying, yeah, he needs to make a decision here. This is not good. And then Biden comes out this past week, does an interview, a Sunday sit-down interview or whatever it was, they pre-recorded it. And then he admits, he's like, yeah, they pushed me out. I didn't want to go out, but they did. And he says, they showed me the polls, and I was like, yeah, I can't win. So you've got even Biden admitting he can't win, but according to this dude's own model, he said Biden was going to win. Does that not invalidate this entire charade already? But let's get to the 13 keys. And by the way, this dude, he's got a huge vendetta against Trump, and a lot of these are opinionated, as you will see. And you can see on the left when you click on one of them, or you don't even have to click on it, you just have to hover over it. It'll show you what he thinks on each of these keys, whether it's true or false. So this is the 13th key. It is a tool that you can use and you can predict, and it is the 13th key to the White House. And I believe, okay, here it is. If 8 or more keys are true, Kamala Harris wins. If 6 or more keys are false, then Donald Trump wins, right? And so the first thing, we're going to go through all 13 of these. It's midterm gains. And you can see he says that the key is certainly false. After the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the U.S. representatives. So that is something that cannot be debated. There's no gray area there. It's not an opinion. It's just a fact. Did they get more seats or did they not? And he admits they did not. So this would be characterized as false. So that would be 1 point supposedly for Donald Trump. And Trump would have to get 6 of these points to, according to his model, win the White House, or that would be the prediction there. You've got no primary contest. So he says that this is certainly true, which would be good for Kamala Harris, but there's a little bit more than meets the eye here, because if it was Biden, I would agree with you 100%. Biden won against basically no one. Now, they did kind of rig the primary process, but either way, Biden was going to win, no doubt. When you have an incumbent candidate, look back at 2020 with Trump, look back at Obama in 2012. It's very obvious the incumbent, as long as there's not something crazy wrong with them. Even with Biden, with how old he was, he still very easily won. So if Biden was running, I would agree. There was no primary contest. It was perfectly fine. However, Kamala Harris did not even run in the primary, so I'm not even sure how you can say that. Almost invalidates this entire thing. There is no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. I guess that's true for Kamala because they just installed her. She wasn't part of the primary process at all. So to me, that invalidates this. This was not a normal situation. Yes, I would say it's true for sure for Biden. He won 14 million votes. The next closest person won under a million or whatever it was. There was really no, everyone knew Biden was going to win. But Kamala Harris did not do that. She was installed after the primary process was over. So the idea that you can say that's certainly true because they installed her after, I think is ridiculous. But he says it's certainly true. So you know what? Let's just say that that's true. Let's just say it's true because technically, even though I think he's manipulating it, she was not, she is unopposed. Well, I mean, it's almost like impossible for her to be unopposed. She didn't run. They just installed her. So it's just, I don't understand that. The number 3 key, incumbent seeking re-election, the incumbent party. So obviously this is another one. There's no gray area. It's not opinionated. If this was Biden, he would get this, obviously, with Harris. Is she, and for the Democrats, by the way, it might be better that, Kamala can detach herself from this administration and say that, and that's what she's done. She's saying that gas prices, whatever, the inflation's too high, you can't buy groceries. When she gets in, even though she's already in, but obviously she's not the incumbent, she's the VP. So she says when she gets in, she's going to change it. So she's campaigning like she's obviously not the incumbent. So obviously that would be a point towards Trump, and he has to get to 6. He's at 2 right now. You've got no third party. So this one is honestly pretty crazy that he says it's likely true, but right now you cannot say for sure on either one. So it says a third party, it says there is no significant third party or independent party campaign. This key is false if the third party candidate is likely to win 5% or more of the popular vote. Now, I find this very curious considering the Democrats blamed the third party in 2016, Gary Johnson, for why Trump won, and he got less than 5%, significantly less than 5%, and RFK is way more popular than Gary Johnson. So the rationale behind 5%, will RFK get 5% in terms of the popular vote? I mean, I think it's pretty, I mean, I'd say 4 to 5% right now. So, but also we could get RFK dropping out. So let's just say, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say RFK drops out, and then absolutely you would only have Jill Stein. I think RFK would endorse Trump, by the way. He would endorse Trump and probably get a cabinet position, but it would be Jill Stein and then Cornel West, and I would agree neither of them would come close to getting the 5%. So we will give Kamala a point there. And I'm trying to be very fair about this, by the way. Like when you look at the second and fourth key, I mean, you want to talk about a third-party candidate, RFK is like more popular than any third-party candidate we've had in the last 20 years. And that's the Democrats blaming Gary Johnson for losing in 2016, and now they're saying that RFK is not going to be an issue. Well, no, he's way more popular. So I don't know if he's going to get 5%. I would say it's going to be very close to 5%. There's some polls that have RFK at like 6-7%. But again, he might drop out. So let's just say he does. And I think he will, honestly, because I don't see him getting any electoral votes either way. The economy is not in a recession during the election campaign. So this is another one that is unknown right now. When it comes to a full-blown recession, it's hard to predict something like that. Obviously, we did have the big-time stock market plunge recently to where people said maybe it'll be a recession. But a recession is extreme, especially in this time frame to where it's only months away now. So let's just give Harris the benefit on that one, and we will put her up to 3 and say it's certainly true. And I'm giving Harris the benefit on all of these. The only ones that I've given for Trump are they're unarguable. These other 3 are arguable in terms of short-term economy, and he even says it's likely true. It's not certainly true because there have been hints about a recession, and also we already had a recession. And then they changed the definition of it. So this one might actually be unknown right now, considering. But you know what? We'll light shade it then. We'll light shade it then. And also we'll light shade this a little bit, I guess. But you've got a strong long-term economy. Real per capita economic growth during the term equals or exceeds the median growth during the previous 2 terms. And this is adjusted for inflation. It's adjusted for inflation. So I will say I would agree. That's another point to Harris. You've got major policy change. Okay, so this is where it gets ridiculous. This is not a formula. This is opinions. The incumbent administration affects major changes in national policy. Okay, so what does that mean? Like, if Donald Trump is in office and you read out this key, if you're a conservative, you're going to say, yeah, Trump did a lot of great things. If you're a Democrat, you're going to say Trump did nothing. He was terrible. It's the same thing with also, you're talking about the incumbent administration. It's going to be a different administration. You just got done saying that there's no incumbent advantage. And now you're saying that the incumbent administration, when Kamala is already trying to get away from that administration, is going to give her the edge in terms of affecting major changes in national policy. Let's remember that Joe Biden has one of the lowest approval ratings of any president ever. Kamala Harris had the lowest VP approval rating of anyone since we've begun tracking it. But he says this administration is doing great things, to where it's certainly true. It's all arbitrary. There is no formula. These keys are based off of political bias. This dude has come out multiple times and says that he hates Donald Trump. He has a bias against Trump. The idea that you can say this is certainly true is ridiculous. That's not a formula. It's not something you can prove. If you're a Democrat, of course you'll say it's true. If you're a Republican, of course you'll say it's false. There's no that it's not like this is a formula you implement and that's just what you get. It's opinionated. So there's no way you can answer that. No social unrest. This is another one, very opinionated. It's the 13 keys are not formulas. They're based off of political bias. It's political bias. There's no sustained social unrest during the term. And so obviously this is something to where we just recently saw all the Hamas people go to Washington, D.C. They had 3 massive flags, bring the flags down, burn them on the ground, and then put up Palestine flags. And you've got all the campus problems. And now you've got left-wing communists who are using voice modifiers, trying to stay anonymous on TikTok, saying they're going to do a massive protest / possible riot at the DNC. So whether or not you think there's huge unrest or not, I would say the Hamas stuff is pretty bad, especially at the college campuses, to where they started to be racist against, some of the Jewish kids and things, and it was really bad. They wouldn't let them in certain places. They said, no, you can't go in. So I think that's really bad. But again, whether I think it's really bad or not, there's no formula. It's just opinions. If you're a liberal, you're going to say, no, there was no big social unrest. And you hate Donald Trump, you're going to say, there's no unrest because I want to make that key true. And if you're a conservative, you're going to say, look at the Hamas stuff going all around. They're burning all the flags on college campuses. It's all racism going on there. So listen, again, there's just it's all arbitrary. It's not a formula, guys. It's not a formula. No scandal. The incumbent administration is untainted by a major scandal. And so this is one where I will completely disagree. He says that's certainly true. They just had to replace the incumbent president via threatening the 25th Amendment against him because he lost a debate against Donald Trump so bad. And remember, this is the same dude that said Biden was going to beat Trump. They blackmailed him and said they threatened him with the 25th. That's not a scandal, really? I mean, I guess you can say, and also Kamala Harris was implicit in saying that Biden was still mentally capable and gaslighting the entire public. So that's a huge scandal. But again, it's another thing that's opinionated. Obviously, if I'm conservative, I'm going to say it's a big scandal. The liberals, like him, they're going to say, no, it's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. There's nothing wrong with doing that and lying to the American public for, multiple years. It's a total sham. Biden has not been, it goes back to 2021 with Nancy Pelosi saying that during an infrastructure meeting for $1 trillion, Biden couldn't complete sentences. They had to send him out of the room, and Nancy Pelosi had to do the negotiations to get the infrastructure deal done. That was back in 2021. So they were lying, and Kamala Harris was part of it, lying about Biden's health blatantly to the American public until it finally got exposed during the debate. But no, you're right. That's not a scandal. Blackmailing the incumbent president and having him replaced and threatening the 25th Amendment, that's not a scandal. You're right. No. It's just ridiculous. The incumbent administration suffers no major financial or foreign military affairs. That's likely false. Failures. So obviously Afghanistan. And so I would say that's certainly false. Afghanistan was way worse than anything Trump did. Yes, Trump wanted to leave Afghanistan, but it's called a slow withdrawal, to where you get all your crap out. You have to leave troops there, and they recommended to Biden, the top officials, they said, the military officials, you have to leave 25,000 troops there or so we can get everyone out safe rather than do it all in one big cluster. And he even admits that's probably false. So that's another one I would say likely false. All of these, I would say this is likely false as well. Or excuse me, this is certainly false. Likely false. This is arbitrary. I don't know how you answer this. Major policy change. Even if you want to give it to him. Major foreign military success. Incumbent administration achieves a major success in foreign or military affairs. It depends. Are you liberal or are you conservative? Obviously, liberals would say, yes, Biden stopped, Ukraine or stopped Russia from invading Ukraine, Russia would have taken over Ukraine. That's what they would say. And then conservatives would say, look at all this money we're wasting on Ukraine, and we're getting played like a fiddle by NATO, protecting an area that's not even close to us as we suffer this horrible, crazy inflation, and we're sending them $50-60 billion. So again, to be fair to liberals, you could argue that maybe he has had some success in stopping Russia's invasion of Ukraine when people thought Russia was going to take Kiev in a week. But you see how these keys are so ridiculous. It's just based off of if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat. I mean, that's what it is. It's not a number formula thing to where you can't argue it. Like midterm games, yes, that's 1,000%. Nobody can argue it. It's just whether or not they gained the seats or they didn't gain the seats. Incumbent. Are they incumbent or are they not incumbent? Even no primary contest, while technically that's true, don't you think it's a little bit different with Kamala being installed after the primary was over? So these are all very just iffy. But listen, I'd say Trump wins. He gets the 6 false ones. If you get 6, then Trump wins. Charismatic incumbent, the incumbent party candidate is charismatic or a national hero. So he says it's certainly false. Liberals will actually argue that Kamala is, charismatic now. Because obviously with Biden, it would have been false. He's not charismatic. But they would argue that Kamala now is charismatic. It's arbitrary whether or not she's charismatic. I mean, she won't do any interviews. It's hard to even tell. So these keys, they're just ridiculous. And the 13th key, the challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero. And he says that's certainly true. He's wrong. Trump is a national hero after what happened in Butler, where Trump gets hit in the air, gets up, and with the American flag behind him in the blue sky and says, fight, 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 as there's blood running down his face. If that's not a national... Well, listen, a national hero is a big thing to be called, but that was a huge event, and I don't think you can say that's certainly true. Again, that's a perspective thing. Obviously, conservatives are going to view Trump as charismatic and a hero, and liberals are going to say, no, he's the devil. So again, it's like, it's just based off of if you're a liberal or a conservative. So that's why these keys are ridiculous to me. And again, guys, think about it. This guy said that Biden was going to beat Trump. Barack Obama even basically called him a dumbass when Obama said, behind the scenes, you got to get Biden out. Nancy Pelosi said, you got to get Biden out. Schumer wanted Biden gone. They were all pressuring Biden, and as they were doing that, that's inner Democrats who are obsessed with winning and retaining power, ringing the alarms on an incumbent president who you would think would have the incumbent advantage, ringing the alarm bell saying he needs to be, taken out. And you've got this dude still simping for Biden saying, oh, don't look at the polls or anything like. I mean, the donors pulled all their funds. Even the donors were like, we're not giving another penny to this guy. Remove him, and then we'll give the money to whoever replaces him. And while they were doing that, because remember, they pulled his funds like 3 weeks before he finally decided to drop out, he kept going down in the polls. And this dude kept saying he was going to win based off of his keys. So you know what? Those are the 13 keys. Let me just say, maybe the 14th key, I think the 14th key is stuck up Harry Sisson's ass. Maybe if he finds that, digs it out, maybe Kamala will win if they can find the 14th key. But based off of these 13 keys, I mean, but again, it's like, even if you want to argue these, it's all just based off of political preference. It's not like you can unequivocally say yes or no. I mean, some of these you can say, like real per capita economic growth, which is adjusted for inflation. I'll give them credit for that. Yes, I would agree. It's true. But even something like this, it's like, normally this would be 100%, but it's just like with Kamala, it's a little bit different. And then all these other ones, charismatic. I mean, liberals will say Kamala's charismatic. Republicans will say no. Again, it's just based off of your political party. And this guy has a propensity. He's already said he hates Trump. He's anti-Trump. Go look it all up. It's all over the internet back like 3-4 years. And so he's got a vendetta against Trump. So now he's spewing his propaganda on CNN, talking about his track record. And good for him. He's got a good track record. But this is ridiculous. The idea that you can use these arbitrary things that are just based off of conservatives versus liberals who could both argue all of these different points. Liberals could argue that Biden was great against Russia in the war and that this key should be true. And he's got it as likely false. So again, it's an opinionated thing. It's based off of your bias. And when it comes to this, I would say that Trump for sure, even based off of these keys. I mean, some of them are not solved yet. We have to wait until we get closer to the election. But, he would say that, is Kamala charismatic? I mean, who knows? Is Trump a national hero or uncharismatic? I mean, liberals will say yes, Republicans will say no. Again, it is what it is. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.